Every sport has its own holy grail, which establishes an athlete or team as the best in the world. American football has the Super Bowl.
15, 10, 5,
For baseball, it's the World Series. But in action sports, it's a little bit different. The best athlete in the world is determined by who can land the biggest, most difficult, and often most dangerous trick. Unlike traditional sports, this title is not given on a frequent basis. The stakes are simply too high. Like a solar eclipse, long periods of time happen between world record tricks. Yet, in the last week of April of 2015, the stage was set for something extraordinary. In a strange twist of events, 3 of the world's best action sports athletes found themselves at legendary Travis Pastrana's compound in Davidsonville, Maryland, with the purpose of attempting 2 unthinkable stunts. Josh Sheehan would attempt a triple backflip on a motorcycle, while Jed Milden and James Foster would compete head-to-head to become the first person in the world to land a quadruple backflip on a BMX bike. The odds of landing on the moon would be better than just one of these tricks being landed. Having both of these tricks completed in the same week is unfathomable.
Yeah, buddy. Yeah, Jed!
This is their journey. In the 1990s, the sport of freestyle motocross was evolving quickly. FMX started as a loose underground movement of creative expression on a motorcycle. However, with the creation of organized competitions, FMX became formalized. At the 2000 Gravity Games, Carey Hart shook the foundations of FMX by attempting a backflip.
A backflip was something that everyone had talked about for years. You know, they'd done them on BMX bikes, but no one knew if it was possible. Mike Metzger, myself, Caleb Wyatt, everyone had kind of joked about it, talked about it, but Carey Hart came out at Gravity Games back in 2000 and built a lip that was ginormous compared to anything else that was out there. It was almost vertical.
That day, I was just a train wreck, you know.
Everyone out here knows the impact this will have on the sport of freestyle motocross if Carey Hart pulls off a backflip.
Carey didn't just hit it, he launched it.
You know, I landed hard and kind of exploded, but I got to wheels and kind of proved that it was possible to do.
Everyone's like, well, it's a one-time trick, it's a stunt. It's not something you can do over and over again. Metzger stepped up the game, and he's like, I've got it on lock. I've got no-footed backs and one-handed backs. And Metzger and I went back and forth.
I knew I was gonna be doing flips and going head-to-head with Pastrana.
Again, backflip number 2 from Mike Metzger. And a no-footed backflip. There it is, a backflip yet again from Mike Metzger.
I did one run as a joke, and I just flipped the same jump over and over again and just did like a one-footer, then a no-footer, then a one-hander. And they were all world's first because no one had ever seen that done. So the judges didn't know how to judge it. The crowd was going nuts.
Kicker again. Oh! Metzger tweaking the ball.
They were flipping off dirt lips, off everything, like stuff that was like next level. And everyone behind them might as well just gone home because it was done.
Well, at least it gives us something to look forward to next year.
With the backflip, there became a fine black and white line. If you do the backflip, you can proceed and possibly make a career out of freestyle motocross. If you don't, you might as well pack up your bags and quit.
Other riders that couldn't believe that the backflip came into play, it really put a stop to their so-called freestyle career.
I don't want to have to do this, ever. Like, I don't ever want to have to do backflips. And I remember being pretty mad about it, you know? I pretty much figured, like, all right, my FMX career is about over. I'm just gonna ride out the wave as long as I can.
go up the ramp, and I remember sitting in that corner going, all right, dude, at this moment, are you gonna backflip or are you gonna retire? Are you gonna be just another wash-up or be in the game? And I just said, all right, dude, you're going for it. And then something went through my head. I'm like, dude, you could die right now.
Once the flip was recognized as far as like, whoa, we have to do it, then the progression of hanging off and doing every single trick upside down started happening.
The action sports world is full of astounding athletes. Tony Hawk, Matt Hoffman, Kelly Slater, Danny Way, and many more. Travis Pastrana has earned a spot at the top of that list. Whether it's as an athlete or founder of the Nitro Circus, it could be argued that nobody has done more to push action sports than Travis.
Just as the rest of the freestyle motocross field was trying to incorporate single backflips into their repertoire, Travis did what he always does. Pulled out his little magic ladder, climbed up to a level all by himself when he did the double backflip in 2006.
Well, I was trying not to worry everybody, but everyone kind of found out anyway. Going for a double flip, so might not exactly have the preparation I need, but I never do, so it's all nitro, baby.
This is why the kid fills stadiums. This is why people love him. This is what makes Travis Travis.
This will go right around the world. I mean, everyone will hear about this. I'm still in shock, and I can't believe what just happened.
Oh, did not see that working. Did not see that working.
After Travis landed the double backflip, he didn't have much time to celebrate before everyone started to wonder if a triple backflip was possible. In parallel to Pastrana's quest to see the triple backflip landed, two other Nitro Circus athletes have their sights set on their own goal. Jed Milden and James Foster are in a two-man race to become the first person on the planet to land a quadruple backflip on a BMX bike. Jed and James are both world-class BMX athletes that come from very different backgrounds.
James' story about how he became a BMX pro makes total sense. He grew up in the action sports hotbed of Southern California. He experienced the BMX scene early in his life, so his path really isn't that big of a stretch. Jed, however, has a little more of an unlikely story. He grew up at the bottom of the world in a little town of Taupo, New Zealand. There's no BMX scene there. There's really not a lot from which to draw inspiration. He really had to make a proactive effort to get involved and make a dent in the BMX world.
To see how he stacked up against the top riders in the world, Jed packed up his bike and entered some competitions in the United States. Although he felt good about his riding, he didn't get very good results from the event judges.
That was a moment in my life and my career that motivated me to go big, to go bigger.
He was now convinced that he needed to do something big to get recognition. He figured a triple backflip would do it.
The race for the quadruple backflip is really just a continuation of the race for the triple backflip that the same two athletes, Jed Milden and James Foster, had back in 2011.
James Foster actually had plans to be the first person to attempt the triple backflip on a BMX bike. He was going to do it at the Nitro Circus show at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas in 2011.
We call up Foster, and he's like, yeah, I'll do it for the show. I'll do it first time in the show. He's like, I kind of want to do it before just to get it down. I said, no, let's do world's first in the show.
At this point, nobody had really talked about doing a triple flip at all.
What James didn't know was that his friend and rival Jed Milden had his own plans to be the first person to land the triple. And Jed had the advantage of knowing when and where James was going to attempt it.
A week and a half later, Foster's on the plane, coming out to do his world's first triple backflip, and all over the internet, Jed Milden, first rider to ever triple backflip a bicycle.
James didn't actually know I was doing it, but I knew he was doing it. I knew the date he was doing it, so I put it 4 days before him. Yes, very cheeky, but you got to do what you got to do to be the first in the world.
I was pretty bummed, just because I didn't know he was going to do it, and I get a call like, oh, world first, triple backflip, and it just blew me away.
In much the same way that Travis began to question whether or not a triple backflip could be done on a motorcycle. After Jed landed his triple, he immediately started to wonder about the quadruple backflip on a BMX bike.
The triple backflip started out as soon as I was able to land the double backflip. Whenever you do something, everyone always asks, what's the next big thing?
Travis has this ability to take the impossible and make it possible because his ability allows him to exist in a realm that other people just can't see. What looks crazy to you is actually perfectly legitimate to him because he sees the numbers. He's like Neo, like when he sees the Matrix.
Once Travis started to think that the triple backflip on a motorcycle was possible, it triggered a sequence of events where Travis began probing and testing any chance that he could get. One time when we were filming for a Nitro Circus shoot, Travis was doing a motorcycle base jump in the Grand Canyon, and it was the first time that he really had the space and the air time to do 3 rotations.
I was able to get 3 flips around. However, I was about 400 feet below my starting point, which really isn't an option because you can't drop 400 feet and live to tell the tale if you're trying to ride out of it. But at the same time, it kind of gets you thinking, okay, maybe it's possible, and be careful what you ask for because you just might get it. So Red Bull built me the ramp. They rented out an entire hot air balloon hangar in Long Beach, and we got all this press there and all this media there, and got some of the top aerial skiers out and some of the top Olympic coaches with Frank Bear, helping me on trampolines, learn triples, and it wasn't even close. I could get 2 around, but even with this huge setup and Renner's quarter pipe ramp, and I failed. It was the biggest failure that I've had in my life. It was the biggest catastrophe that I've had as far as, you know, a sponsor believing in me, backing me, for me to say, yeah, it's gonna work. And I could, you know, I could land on my back tire on 2. I've been wanting to do the triple backflip for probably 6 years now. And we've gone through so many ramp renditions and so much money from so many different sponsors. And even, I mean, my company is like, you know what? We're out like this. We're chasing a pipe dream. It can't work.
Travis had an epiphany when he was watching a ski jump event. He noticed that the geometry of the ski jumps were set to maximize airtime and rotation.
We started talking with skiers and said, okay, how do you guys get so many spins? You guys are doing 4, you know, someone's talking about doing a quint flip. And they said, well, you have to have a really mellow entrance, and then you G out really, really hard in the center, and then you have to allow your body, your suspension for that matter, to decompress as you're going off the lip. So it gives you that ability to center your gravity, as opposed to just being so compressed when you go off that, you know, nothing's working.
The geometry of the ski ramps made a very big impression on Travis. From that point, he knew he had to figure out a much different ramp setup than he had previously been using. This was a process that would take a lot of time and money. Once Travis got to a point where he felt like he had a solid ramp, he needed some other riders to jump it so he could get some crucial feedback. He called Thomas Paget and Josh Sheehan, 2 of the best FMX riders in the world, to join him at Pastrana Land.
Oh my God! Back jump! I'm even afraid to hit it to the back jump. Yes.
So it's, I mean, what kind of squat are you gonna do here? Who's coming to jump that?
You.
When Tom and Shinny showed up at Travis's house for the first time and saw that monstrosity of a ramp that Travis built, they were shocked, they were speechless. Nothing like that has ever been built in the history of FMX.
A couple of years after Jed landed the BMX triple, Jed approached Travis Pastrana and the Nitro Circus about his desire to attempt a quadruple backflip. He knew this would require the involvement of partners who had the capability of pulling off big stunts. Because Jed is a Nitro Circus athlete, Pastrana and his management team put a plan in place where Jed would attempt the stunt from a location near his hometown of Taupo, New Zealand. This time, however, Jed's plans did not remain a secret.
The second that Foster found out that Jed was setting up to do the quad down in New Zealand, he got on the phone and called Nitro right away and said that he wanted to try it too.
Because James is also a Nitro Circus family member, it was an easy decision to include him.
I've got tons of respect for Jed. You know, we're really good friends and we've been riding together forever. But after watching him get the triple flip before I did, there's no way I was just gonna let him do the quad without me getting a chance to go for it.
With everything out on the table, Jed and James decided to have a head-to-head competition rather than sneak around trying to foil each other's efforts. A plan was put into place where the riders would attempt the quad at exactly the same time on the same day. Jed was set to jump near his hometown in New Zealand, while James chose to base out of Pastrana Land in Maryland.
Once we had the dates set and the plans in motion, at that point it was really just up to the athletes to get their ramps dialed in and get as much practice as possible.
As the riders were working towards their collective goal, there was a big difference in progress being made. In New Zealand, the poor weather had Jed nearly at a standstill.
The weather out here on the Franklin farm's been crazy. We had rain, and then the other day I went to go ride the jump, and it was like 50k an hour headwinds. What the hell?
But in Maryland, James already had his ramp dialed in and was doing great with his practice jumps.
He just did his second quad flip off of it. Bang, wheels on dirt. Wow, that was absolutely, without a doubt, no question, the best one I've ever done by far. Had that been a landing, I would have ridden that away.
After being extremely frustrated because of the weather, Jed finally caught a break.
As you can see by the glow on my skin from that sun, she's finally popped out. The airbag's in position. That noise you can hear in the background's the pump blowing it up. And we're moments away from testing out the quad flip jump. Thank you, son. Oh, first roll at the Buddha. I wanted to straight jump it. And she set me in for a backy.
Jed is initially excited when he takes his first run off the ramp. Yet when he starts to go for the quad, Jed hits a wall. Not only is he fighting with the weather, but he is now dealing with a ramp that is not giving him the rotation that he needs. This is a very frustrating realization. As jump day gets closer and closer, the Nitro Circus production team grows concerned with Jed's lack of progress. In an effort to help Jed's cause, the Nitro Circus management sends a team of people to help him try to dial in his ramp and landing. This is an attempt to level the playing field with James.
I had a phone call from Jed, and it was a little bit concerning to hear, you know, a week out that this is kind of the first time, you know, I really felt some fear from Jed and the fact that this wasn't potentially going to happen. So we've sent the whole crew over. We're here now. In a day's time, history's going to go down with the first ever quad flip. This is maybe the little kickstart you need to get going.
It is now the day before the scheduled jump. The hope is that Jed will be able to sneak in a few practice jumps and build his confidence. However, once again, the wind is so strong that it is simply too dangerous to jump. The best he can hope for now is that he can practice a bit tomorrow before jump time arrives. When the new day breaks, it's beautiful in Maryland, and James is confident. Unfortunately for Jed, he's facing much different conditions.
It's morning of Jed's jump. It's freezing out here. It's 3 degrees Celsius. There's an inch of water on everything. The lander we just put up last night, and it's soaked now. We're only 3 hours away from the jump. It's gonna be tough today.
The scheduled jump time has come and gone. James has perfect conditions, but continues to delay in hopes that Jed will get some good luck.
I sat on top of the roll end for about 45 minutes, fully padded up, helmet on, pads on, ready to drop in at any moment.
This morning is ready to drop in on the countdown for the quad flip with my mate James Foster. Guess I'm in quite a bit of a disheartening situation right now with Mother Nature.
Just out of curiosity, because this is possibly the scariest thing that's ever happened, hypothetically,
Is there a time when you guys are like, the wind's not gonna calm down, we're gonna do it tomorrow? Or do we just send Foster?
After it is clear that the weather isn't going to cooperate, Jed gives James his blessing to continue on without him. This is a huge act of sportsmanship.
Jed, how you feeling? Here's James over here. How you doing, man?
Good, bro. How are you?
I'm sitting on the top of the roll and staring at this thing.
Dude, drop in and stomp it.
This is probably the gnarliest situation ever, and it's just getting gnarlier.
Since Jed will not be jumping, there is no longer a need for a countdown. All he can do now is sit in silence and wait for a phone call that will report James's success or failure.
After all these months of anticipation and injury, hard work, James is now staring down the barrel of what could be the biggest trick in BMX history.
Okay. Dropping.
Come on, Foster. 1, 2, 3.
Where did I go?
You went right. You went right to the right of it. You had the 4 rotations.
You all right?
James is very close to landing, but drifted a little too far to the right, missing the landing altogether.
My first attempt at the quad to the landing felt perfect to me. Rotation felt perfect. You know, I spotted the landing, opened up, and like I honestly, when I opened up, I was like, I'm riding away, I got this. Like I just pulled it. And then the next thing I know, I hit the dirt.
To the astonishment of everyone, he walks away from the crash and is able to dust himself off and take a second run. James is not so lucky the second time around. He under-rotates, gets jammed by his handlebars and breaks several ribs. Due to the severity of his injuries, he cannot continue. With James on the sideline with injury, Jed finds himself in the position of having an unrivaled shot at being the first to land the quad.
It wasn't really just me anymore. You know, I had this whole team of people that were there trying to achieve one thing, trying to achieve this dream of mine, so I don't really want to let anyone down.
It seems he has been a little unnerved by challenges he has faced up to this point. Jed finally gets a break in the weather, but his mental state is a bit shaken.
Yeah, Jed! Get it! Come on!
On my first go at the quad in New Zealand, I just went massive. We had that elusive easterly tailwind, and she was there in full force that morning, and it booted me to the moon. And I knew kind of straight off the takeoff, I kind of tried to slow it down, but no go.
Jed went for it, and it didn't go to plan. He ended up hitting pretty hard, kind of hurt his spine real bad, and was unable to try again. He's kind of in a similar situation as Foster right now, and we're just trying to reevaluate how we proceed.
Who's coming to jump that?
You.
The ramp that Travis built for the triple backflip is colossal. Just jumping the ramp would require the 3 riders to step way out of their comfort zone. Nothing like this has ever been seen in the FMX world.
When I got this invite from Travis saying like, hey, we're doing this thing again, you want to come back? I'm like, yeah, sure, I'm so excited about it. It was a big mistake. Big mistake.
Thomas Paget had the by far best reaction.
Why? I mean, there's a word that's in my head. It's why.
That French accent, like just asking himself, like why did I show up here? Why are you doing this? What the hell is I thinking?
No one had ever hit a ramp that big and tried to do any kind of tricks off it. So when Paget and Shinny came out,
You just took it one step at a time. Like, let's just try to jump it, and it wasn't even jumpable. It sent you upside down.
It was alarming for everyone to see how high they were actually going when the boys started hitting the triple jump ramp. The POV footage is kind of the one thing that really shows how scary it is.
After several ramp modifications and a lot of frustration for Travis, they seemed to find the right configuration.
Travis was really trying to go for a triple flip, and we really started talking about it. And he has everything in his head of how he wants it. And I think it turned out to be more than we originally expected. Everything that Travis had thought, you know, worked, but there was aspects that didn't work. When you come into this, I'm hoping that you get G'd out right here, and then your suspension will stay in, but it'll be manageable enough that you're not gonna be so glued to the ramp that your bike will start unloading on the flat on top.
Yeah.
If that doesn't happen, all we have to do, you see the first section of ramp?
Yep.
Get rid of that, dig that down like 2 feet like we did before,
and then
we'll continue that down.
Nate Wessel is the hardest working, most creative ramp builder I've ever met in my entire life. And something that most people don't understand is how much time it takes to build one single ramp. We're talking a 37-foot tall ramp, and we got to figure out the physics to make sure that it's wide enough not to move right or left, and then looking at the top to make sure it doesn't give, because if it gives when the front tire takes off, then it rebounds. Every intricacy of this ramp has to be perfect.
The fact that these people are coming up with these concepts to break these world records, it's mind-boggling.
You're the one that's going to be trying that out for everyone else. You're the guinea pig for the rest of the world.
These guys are absolutely nuts, and they're completely and totally motivated by the fact that progression is their lives, and they're not going to be happy unless they're doing something that is so above and beyond what is humanly possible.
You okay? You okay, brother?
We realized that Thomas Paget, who's possibly the best in the world, he couldn't even do it because he wasn't tall enough. He wasn't strong enough.
Even though Paget is known for being one of the most innovative FMX riders in the world, he makes the decision that the journey for the triple is not something he wants to continue. He bows out honorably. It is now down to Travis and Josh Sheehan to continue the push.
It was probably our 12th rendition of the ramp. I had hit it, and I wasn't getting the pop. But I'm like, Sheeny, we've got this little extra extension. I think with the 450, you've got more power. You're stronger than I am. I'm like, just give it a shot.
He had 3.5! He had 3.5!
Sure as can be, he just pops. And this thing rotates so fast. He does 2 flips and bails out. And he's still on the way up. And at that point, I'm like, it's gonna happen.
Would have over-rotated 3. You would have over-rotated 3.
Like, yeah, this has been way faster. And then I let go, like, oh, I'm really hard still. I'm glad you hit that ramp again.
Yes, Sheeny.
And once you start doing bigger tricks, bigger jumps, going faster in it, everything is getting bigger, but the margin of error just gets smaller and smaller and smaller. You go an inch to the right, that equals going a couple feet to the right off the jump, and that means you're gonna miss the whole entire landing, and who knows what's gonna happen after that. So it's scary.
Get off. Winded.
Oh, man, I've never been this sore. But it's not like I haven't just had one hit. It's my tailbone, my lower back, all around my front there. It's just all just gone into the handlebars, into the ground.
Josh came so close to missing the airbag, and if that would have happened it would have been fatal. There's no way around it. I know, for me, that really burned into my mind the magnitude of this stunt.
Even with the latest modifications to the ramp that allowed Sheehan to get the triple around, Travis was struggling and hit a wall. To make matters worse, he had been knocked unconscious several times just jumping into the airbag.
Blood everywhere. Knuckles, butt, arms. Feel broken and bruised. The bag jump's sick, but it hurts.
There's only so much your body can give you, you know what I mean? It's like, how long can you go before you just have beat yourself to the point you're not able to do something, you know, what you want to, day in and day out anymore.
With this progression in our sports, with the next big thing, there have been serious consequences to those actions because some of those you can't bail out of safely, especially a triple backflip.
I need help. Hey, Travis, hold on, bud. Back.
The one thing that people don't understand, going to a flat bag, it looks very cushiony, but, you know, Travis has knocked himself out trying to pull the triple 6 or 7 times.
Look, when someone like Travis Pastrana, who's visualized this thing in his mind a million ways to Sunday, but has knocked himself out just trying to do the trick into an airbag, and he rolls away and decides to pass the torch, that's real. That's really, really real. That's like the most psychotic human on this earth is like, that's too much for me.
This was a rare moment in Travis's life where he wasn't able to overcome physical limitation.
For me, with my skill level, to get that trick around, I would have to be somewhere in the realm of 120 feet off the ground. I definitely wish that I was better. I feel like that's what everyone says when they're, you know, coming in second, or at this point, just bowed out of the race. You know, I hate quitting, but for me, I'm just not okay with the consequences on this jump.
The triple backflip has come down to one sole rider, Josh Sheehan.
Come down to me. Never thought I'd do a double flip a long time ago, but here I am about to try triple.
Knowing that Josh is as capable as Travis of doing this trick, I mean, it's a huge honor for him, but it's also, like I said, it's this collective effort to push this sport forward. So the fact that, you know, there's not this animosity and it's not this fight to the win. It's more like, well, you know, I came up with this and I really can't do it. You're fully capable. Maybe it's time you take it.
Travis has chased the triple backflip for too many years not to see it come to fruition. So when he put his bike away, he diverted all of his energy and expertise to supporting Josh Sheehan's continued journey to get the triple done. Although Josh is feeling very comfortable with his rotations, he has to interrupt his effort for the triple to join up with the Nitro Circus Tour in Australia. With the triple being put on hold again, and Jed and James recovering from injury from the BMX quad attempts, success for either project seems a long way off. Both Jed and James have spent several weeks recuperating from their injuries. The production team has received an update that James is doing much better. Jed, however, has gone off the grid, and everyone suspects that he may have given up on the quad. In this state of uncertainty, the production team has put both the BMX quad and the Moto triple projects on the back burner. The Nitro Circus Tour has started again in Australia. Josh has hurried back from Pastrana Land to join up with the tour. James has recovered enough to be able to perform as well. The biggest surprise is that Jed has resurfaced and shown up in Australia to join up with the rest of the athletes on tour. Performing with the Nitro Circus has been a good diversion for the athletes. Jed and James have now recovered from their injuries from their first attempts at the quad. With a fresh perspective, they decide that they want to get serious about attempting the quad again. But this time, Jed wants to join James at Pastrana Land because he concedes that Foster has built the right ramp Josh Sheehan is also eager to get back to Maryland to try the triple backflip. All three athletes approach Nitro Circus management and request that another session be planned at Pastrana Land. Due to such a heavy touring schedule, the production team has found just 1 week of availability at the end of April, where both stunts would have to be crammed in. Otherwise, things would have to be put on hold for at least another year. All three athletes know that the likelihood of pulling off their respective stunts in such a short window is not good, but they're willing to take the chance. With a date now set, the athletes will head back to Pastrana Land as soon as the Australian Nitro Circus tour is over. Unfortunately, James has come across bad luck yet again. Just before the tour's end, he crashes hard in the show while doing a triple backflip. His injuries are bad enough where he won't be able to join Josh and Jed in Maryland. He is heartbroken.
This all came down to 1 week. It wasn't that we were going to Travis' house to pull one of the biggest tricks in action sports. We were given the task to pull 2 of the biggest tricks in action sports in 2 different disciplines in a matter of 7 days.
The odds of our athletes pulling off in the same week a quadruple backflip on a BMX bike and then a triple backflip on a motorcycle, I would stack those odds up against us figuring out how to land either the bike or the motorcycle on the moon.
When you do an event like this or a world's first, there's so many moving parts, and really to get all the teams to work together and it all to be perfectly aligned so those guys can go do their job is almost impossible.
Construction of the ramp, you know, the team of people it takes to create that. You got to design the thing. The budget's raised, the expectations based on the budgets. You know, everybody's schedules and time periods to be there, to shoot, to film. So it starts to get out of your control where it's not on your terms anymore.
To go from concept to actual execution, it's unheard of. You know, in such short time, you know, the mental and physical abuse you put on your body, it's next level.
Josh and Jed have now returned to Pastrana Land in Maryland, where they are met by an army of people there to help accomplish the goal. There are only 6 precious days to accomplish these 2 monumental stunts. Every hour is crucial.
There's going to be utter chaos at Pastrana Land this week. We have had to essentially create a city of infrastructure to pull this off.
We have producers, camera operators, sound guys, builders, welders, heavy equipment specialists, medics. The list just goes on and on.
When we converged on Trav's house, everyone had one mission and one goal, and that was to make those 2 tricks happen in the safest environment that we could, and we weren't leaving until that happened.
So yeah, first day practice in a while. It's been, what, nearly 4 months when I last hit it, so, you know, might be a little nervous for the first one. Haven't done one in a while, but we'll get a few done and see how it goes.
When Josh got back to Pastrana Land, he was struggling a bit with the triple, and I think it was because he had just gotten off of tour where he was consistently doing double backflips, and I think he had just lost a little bit of the muscle memory for the triple.
One of the issues that arose was Sheeny wanted to make sure he could land like 3 or 4 solid back-to-back-to-back before he was confident in removing the airbag. And for the first couple days, that wasn't happening. With only a limited amount of time, he had to get it done.
By the end of the second day, Josh is starting to shake off the cobwebs and is getting 3 rotations around fairly consistently. His positivity is bolstered when he receives the welcome surprise that several of his friends have made the trek from Australia to support him during what could be the biggest moment of his life.
It's awesome to have my Aussie friends here. Really takes the load off the whole thing. I can kind of relax a lot more, just feels like I'm at home.
9 of Josh's friends came from Australia. They literally jumped in, picked up hammers, helped move the airbag, literally put the sheathing on Sheenie's lander. If those friends didn't show up, we wouldn't have had the manpower to finish.
All the boys that are here, you know, we're good friends back home, and I think above all else, we just want to see him do good. If you've got that key ingredient, you know, they'll do anything for him.
The presence of Josh's friends seems to take his mind off the danger of the stunt for which he is preparing.
Yeah, Josh!
Yeah, Josh! Woo!
Dude. You gonna waste any more good ones, or are you gonna take this fluffy little bag jump out of there and hit this thing to dirt?
That was
No, I think
so
I'm ready. That's it. We can pull the bag down, build the lander.
Hell yeah, man.
Good to go.
Dude, I never thought I'd say this, but I think you might not die tomorrow. That's pretty impressive, man.
After landing several triples into the slope bag, Josh's confidence is at an all-time high. He feels like he has put in the work and is as prepared as he can be. At last, he makes the call for the crew to remove the airbag and prepare the landing for the final stage. While Josh and crew are preparing the landing ramp for the triple, Jed is just a few yards away practicing his rotations into the flat airbag. This is the first time that he has hit something other than his ramp in New Zealand.
Probably the best for my mindset, just to drop straight in and quad.
Coming.
It seems that James Foster's ramp suits Jed very well. Jed is improving quickly.
The feeling of finally getting the quad around at Pastrana Land on James Foster's setup is incredible. It's really rewarding, especially after spending the last 9 months on this project. Today was, I feel, the breakthrough.
That's the Jed brew we know. Oh, man. Oh.
After Jed makes such good progress at Pastrana Land, he calls James Foster to check in on his recovery and to see if James is well enough to jump back into the race.
Hey, bro.
Hey, man.
It's Jed, how are you?
I'm good, man. How you doing? I heard you got 4 rounds. That's awesome, man.
Oh, yeah, cheers. Yeah, I was just ringing to let you know, so you had the option of coming out if you wanted.
I'll talk to Dove, and I'll see you guys in a few days.
I called Dove immediately and was like, hey, book me a flight. I'm coming out there. We're best buddies, but I want to do it first, you know, obviously. I worked really hard on it. I wrecked myself a bunch trying to get it done. And after going through all of that, if he goes and does it, I'm not going to be psyched.
It has been nearly 10 years since Travis Pastrana started blazing the trail toward the triple backflip. Now, the torch has been passed to Josh Sheehan. Josh is the only person who has the ability to carry on. After all the blood, sweat, and tears, the day has come for Josh to flip his way into the history books or face the dire consequences of failure.
I'm probably the closest one to understand what's going through Josh's head, and I didn't even sleep knowing that I was going to do it to an airbag.
I think mentally I'm pretty good. I slept till pretty much 7 this morning and laid there, maybe dozed off for a bit more. I just try to think of other things. I know that if I think of this, my brain just starts ticking, and thinking stops me from doing other things. So I just, kind of tried to ignore it. Just tried to convince myself that it was just another day in the airbag.
From a production standpoint, it's very complicated. We've got 25 cameras being used that day, drones flying, people up in scissor lifts. But the main thing that we all have to be cognizant of is that this is Sheenie's call. He's given me a time in the early afternoon, the day before, when he feels most comfortable and wants to do it. So that's kind of our mark, and that's where we need to be ready.
To Josh Sheehan, I would say this. If you wholeheartedly in your heart believe that you've got this thing, and go out there and send it. But if there is, for any reason, any fiber of you that thinks, I'm not so sure that I want to do this, then don't let any of this stuff, any of the hype, none of the cameras, none of the history behind it, don't let any of that get in the way, man, because you're not any less of a man if you walk away.
I think Josh can do it, but I have a massive mixture of emotions about the thing, and I would like to just sit him down and say, Josh, no.
Honestly, I think this trick is so far beyond the realm of what people can really comprehend. This is simply Josh Sheehan wanting to push the human spirit, to push what's possible and to push himself.
Yeah, I look at freestyle motocross and this, the triple backflip is so dangerous. If I look at the sport of freestyle in general, how dangerous it's been, and to take it to this level is just, it's hard to explain. You can't even put it in words, right?
I mean, there's a million things that could go wrong in that situation and only one that can go right.
The consequences are huge. It's life and death, and hate to say it, but that's what it is.
If I was to not make the jump, I don't even want to imagine what would happen then. It'd be pretty insane, pretty gnarly. It'd do a lot of damage. If I didn't make the jump, it could quite easily be death. It's quite a tumble down to the ground.
Sheeny is a bogan from Perth that just did the biggest trick in action sports and potentially the craziest stunt that's ever been done. And he is just Josh Sheehan, an inspiration to the working class man and an inspiration to me.
The moment he landed safely and rode away, the celebration began. Everyone was just so elated to see that he was okay and achieve this goal that he worked so hard for. But for us, we celebrated for a minute, but we quickly had to realize we got to turn our focus back on the quad.
If this were normal circumstances and Josh landed a triple backflip on a motorcycle, there would be a 2-week celebration. But we didn't have time to do that. We basically had to say, good job, buddy. Move aside. We've got a quadruple backflip that we've got to accomplish now.
2 big stunts in a week is awesome, but to put them back to back and have to change location from one to the next, get out of the way so we can start moving stuff. So we tear things down and rebuild them down here and recut and all that kind of stuff.
Everything had to play almost to the hour, and the second that the trip was done, we moved on to the quad.
It is the morning after Josh landed the triple. Just 2 days remain before Jed and James need to report to the Nitro Circus Tour again. The crew is hard at work, moving the landing from the MOTOS side to the BMX side. James has now arrived, and he hurries to the jump site to check out the scene. He is disappointed to learn that the flat airbag has already been removed, so that the final landing and the slope bag could be put into place. He was hoping to get some practice into the flat airbag.
The biggest difficulty for me was that I hadn't hit the ramp to the flat airbag. I got there the day the real landing was going up. So I just had to guess how far I thought I would go. I think if I hit the ramp at this gap right now, I'll probably land at the top of the landing. I think I'm gonna move the takeoff 2 foot closer. I just don't want to risk going short.
You went 4 feet.
I'm having second thoughts. Let's go back 2 feet. Sorry.
I always really watch closely on the confidence of the athlete before they're about to do something. So when you see somebody start to second guess and question and go through that inner turmoil, that's when it starts to get nerve-wracking.
Get it, get it. It's a very familiar and extremely unpleasant feeling. I miscalculated the gap because I wasn't there going to the flat bag, so I couldn't actually measure the gap. And I came in front tire on top of the bag, barely made it to the bag, still spinning like I didn't have time to open up. And my crossbar hit me in the chest in the same spot that I just broken all my ribs, you know, a bunch of times before.
James's injury is a devastating blow for everyone. He has worked so hard for the quad and has come close to pulling it off. Sadly, his effort has only produced several broken ribs. A decision is made to call it a day to regroup. The sun has risen for the final day of an odyssey that has required the heart and soul of 3 larger-than-life athletes. This week, Josh Sheehan has already achieved something that will be remembered for decades to come. The thought of Jed Milden landing the quadruple backflip in the same week is nothing short of unbelievable. If he pulls it off, it will be the biggest week in action sports history. James Foster's effort to land the quad has been monumental, but his luck has run dry, and Jed stands alone at the top of the ramp. Jed will take some runs to the slope bag, and if things go well, the bag will be removed and the final landing prepared.
The practice jumps were horrible. And I rotated 1 out of 6, but the one I did rotate, I under-rotated and just front wheel, whack, 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 down the landing.
Jed had gone a couple times without much success. Came to me and said, dude, I need a break, I need a nap, I just need to get away and get my head cleared.
It was much different than Sheehan doing the triple. Sheehan is calculated, he wants everything to fit in a neat, tidy package, but Jed is this Kiwi that operates under a different system. So we were basically just on call for whenever he felt the moment, the inspiration, whatever it was that he needed, we were just kind of there waiting.
I went down to Hubert and I was like, yo, what do you think I should do? I'm sick around on that airbag. You know what I mean?
Well, I understand. If you want it, just get it. Ain't no sense in goofing around with it. You ain't setting no records on an airbag. First thing to my mind, and usually first thing comes out of my head, you ain't gonna set no world records to an airbag. To be honest, it's true. You got 35 other people that would hook it to an airbag all day long because the consequences are a lot slimmer. If you want to run it out, you gotta run it out.
Okay, let's do it.
In a moment that defies logic, Jed decides he wants to remove the airbag and go straight to the final landing. The task of taking down the airbag and preparing the final landing is a lengthy process. At this point, there were only a couple of hours of sunlight left. Between Jed's poor performance to the airbag and time slipping away, the odds were not in Jed's favor.
Just find that snap, man.
Jed! Come on, Jed!
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah, Jed!
Jed's first attempt looked good until the final moment, but he over-rotated and landed violently to his back.
Okay? I'm cool.
Most humans would not walk away from a hit like that.
I'm cool. Take your time.
Yeah, Jed. Yeah.
kind of rocked me a bit. I stood at the bottom, trying to process what just happened. I was fine, so I was kind of excited that the landing worked. I was able to take a crash on it and get back up, and it didn't break me.
Yeah, Jed! That's it. Nope.
I went back up and sent it again. Didn't get the proper pull that I wanted, so I only spun 3 flips, and I tried to just let out and land on my bum. It just cartwheeled me, landing, had no slip in it whatsoever, and it just grabbed me and just cartwheeled me down the landing, and I was stoked. I was like, oh, wow. I just fell from that high, and I'm fine. This is awesome.
After 2 excruciating crashes, Jed hikes back to the top of the roll-in.
Find it and lock into it, man. Let's do it. Yeah, Jed!
Jed's 3rd attempt is even worse. He lands on his back and hits his head on the wooden landing.
Just landed on my back wheel, and I hit the back of my head, and then I was pissed.
You good? Yeah, I'm fine.
It seems inconceivable for Jed to be able to continue. Yet he has that crucial ingredient that sets him apart from the rest of the world. He has the ability to ignore the pain and redirect fear into motivation and clarity. In this state, Jed takes himself back to the top of the ramp.
You got it.
Yeah, dude.
Get it, man.
Get it.
Let's do it.
You got it.
Woo! Warrior!
Yeah, Jed. You got it, brother.
Yeah, warrior! Yeah,
Come on, come on, come on.
There, that's it.
3, 4.
Landing.
You a man! Yeah, you a man!
Yeah, Jed!
I need to ring my mom.
Hello?
Oh, Mom.
Yeah, hi.
It's Jed.
Oh, hi, dude. Where are you?
I'm at Travis's house. You're not going to believe what just happened.
What?
I just landed the quad flip.
What? Dad? Oh, you little darling. Oh, honey.
Yeah, sorry I didn't tell you I was here.
That's amazing.
I can now say that I watched with my own eyes Josh Sheehan pull off a triple backflip on a motorcycle. Days later, I see Jed Milden pull off a quadruple backflip on a BMX bike. And I hear those words coming out of my mouth, and I don't believe it. I think it's gonna take some time for me to actually acknowledge the truth of what happened.
It's so hard to force progression. Sometimes those things just happen in the heat of the moment, like at a competition or just a session that's happening. So to try to force something that big and that monumental is unbelievable. And the fact that they did it and they accomplished it and now everyone else has to deal with that they did that is unbelievable.
The athletes pushed themselves, the crews pushed themselves, and it wasn't for one single person. It was for everybody, even the athletes that you would think should not be helping each other because they're going for the same goal, helped each other, gave moral support, gave advice. And with Nitro, it's all about that one goal, which is family first.
I've never been more nervous, more concerned, more afraid of the unknown than this past week. But I couldn't be more excited for action sports, more happy for my colleagues, my friends, all the people that have built these ramps, designed these airbags, the landings, and everyone's tired, everyone's worn out, and we had such a fine amount of time to do it. But the fact that they were both able to be successful shows us that we got the right crew, that these riders are the best in the world. And it's an honor every day to work with these guys.
To finally accomplish it, to finally land a triple on a hard landing right away from it, it's awesome. It's still sinking in. It's such an amazing feeling.
Thinking back now on achieving the quad flip, pretty surreal. It gives me this epic belief that whatever I want to do now, I can go do. It's amazing. It makes you think what else is actually possible in this world. You know, something as silly as a quad flip is possible. Hopefully other people can be inspired by this and go do what they want to do in life, because literally anything's possible. You just find your strengths and you pursue them.